The fog lifts slowly from the tree line, like a curtain revealing an empty stage. In the stillness of an American morning, an 80-year-old man sits alone. His house is quiet now. The phone rarely rings. But in this silence, something extraordinary is happening. This is not a story about death. This is not a story about loss. This is a story about what survives when everything else fades away, and the secrets that only 8 decades of living can reveal. 80 years. That's approximately 29,200 sunrises. It's watching the world transform from black and white television to smartphones that contain the entirety of human knowledge. But more profound than technological revolution is the quiet exodus of everyone you've ever loved. Parents, siblings, the friends who knew your name before you knew yourself, and the one person, the one who promised to hold your hand until the very last second. Gone. All of them. Gone. When you reach this age in America, you become something unexpected. A ghost. You exist in a world that belongs to the young, the hurried, the worried. You watch them stress over promotions, over social media, over things that from 8 decades of perspective look like grains of sand blowing in the wind. They ask, what is it like? Some look with pity, as if surviving everyone you've loved is a tragedy. But here is what they don't understand. Here is the secret that no one tells you until you arrive at this shore. When everything and everyone is stripped away, what remains isn't emptiness. What remains is truth. Pure, undeniable, beautiful truth. The kind of truth that can only be forged in the furnace of a fully lived life. And today, from this porch in the heartland of America, this is what one man wants the world to know. These are the things that don't leave, the things that stay when the house grows quiet. This is what remains. In his 40s and 50s, he believed his life was defined by accumulation. The career, the house, the reputation. He guarded these possessions like they were permanent fixtures of his identity. But at 80, he looks at his hands and sees they are empty. And here is the shocking truth. That emptiness is not tragedy. It is liberation. He watched every house he lived in sold to strangers. He watched his professional legacy forgotten by people not yet born when he retired. What remains isn't the trophy on the shelf. What remains is the character forged while reaching for it, the person you became in the pursuit. That is the only permanent prize. Perhaps the most revolutionary truth of 8 decades is this. We never own the people we love. Not our spouses, not our children, not our dearest friends. We are merely stewards of their time for a little while, borrowers of their presence. When you stop trying to possess people and simply experience them, something miraculous happens to grief. It transforms from the agony of being robbed into profound gratitude for the loan. What remains is the love you gave, because that is the only thing that cannot rot. The only thing that will never be sold at an estate sale. Love given is love eternal. When you're young, life becomes a waiting room for the next big moment. The wedding, the promotion, the grand vacation. You spend decades staring at the horizon, missing the ground beneath your feet. At 80, a devastating realization emerges. Life was never made of the mountain peaks. It was always made of the walk between them. If he could return, he would not seek more success. He would seek more noticing. He would linger longer over that cup of coffee. He would listen to the birds with fierce intent. What remains at the end of a long life is a collection of small, beautiful nothings that turned out to be everything. One of the hardest parts of watching everyone leave is discovering who remains. His generation was taught to stay busy, work harder, keep moving, fill every silence. When the children moved out and the friends passed on, he was left alone with a stranger, himself. Most people spend their entire lives running from themselves. using noise, achievement, and relationships to drown their own thoughts. But at 80, you cannot run anymore. Your knees won't allow it. So you sit, and in that sitting, you discover a fortress you never knew you had built. What remains when the world grows silent is your relationship with yourself. If you haven't built that relationship, old age becomes terrifying, an endless echo chamber of regret and loneliness. But if you have cultivated that inner friendship, old age becomes a sanctuary. At 80, he learned something it took a lifetime to understand. He is enough. He has learned to forgive the man he was at 25. He has made peace with the man he was at 50. What remains is quiet reconciliation with the person in the mirror. You were your own best friend all along. You just didn't know it. People ask if he has regrets. Of course, only a fool or a liar claims otherwise. He regrets the risks never taken, the words of love kept bottled up behind walls of pride. But what remains most painfully is remorse for the moments of unkindness. We spend so much energy being right. We argue, we hold grudges, we protect egos that were never worth protecting. As he watched the names in his address book get crossed out, one by one, he realized the devastating truth. Being right is the loneliest victory in the world. What remains is the unshakable knowledge that kindness was always the correct answer, regardless of the argument. If you have someone to call today, call them, not to settle an ancient score, not to prove a point, but simply to say, I'm glad you're here. Because one day, they won't be, and the score won't matter at all. The arguments we cling to become invisible. The grudges we nurture become meaningless. Only the connection matters. Only the love survives. This is not wisdom for the elderly. This is an emergency broadcast for the living. There is a strange grace in watching the world move on without you. At first it stings. The new technology, the unfamiliar slang, the frantic energy of youth. It feels like abandonment. But then, the revelation arrives. The world is supposed to move on. That is the design. When he looks into his grandson's eyes, he sees his own father staring back. He sees that he is just one stitch in a vast and beautiful tapestry. His job now isn't to lead the parade. It's to cheer from the sidelines with everything he has. There is immense freedom in releasing the need to be important. What remains is pure joy, watching life renew itself, knowing his story is woven into theirs forever. So what remains when everyone has left? Gratitude, a fierce, heart-aching gratitude for the sheer impossibility of existence, that he got to be here, that he got to love, even though he lost, that he got to witness 29,200 sunrises, and counting. At 80, he is not afraid of the dark anymore, because he finally understands. The light never really goes away. It just moves to the next room. If you are listening to this, do not wait. Do not wait until you are 80 to search for what remains. Look for it now. It is in the breath you just took. It is in the person sitting across from you at this very moment. It is in the quiet cathedral of your own heart. The young and the old are not separate species. We are the same consciousness at different chapters. What he knows at 80, you can know today. What he wishes he had understood at 40, you can grasp right now. The wisdom of a lifetime is being offered freely. The only question is, will you receive it? Thank you for sitting on this porch for a while. In a world of noise, you chose stillness. In a culture of rushing, you chose to linger. This seat will always be here. If this spoke to something deep within you, carry it forward. Share it with someone you love. And perhaps leave a thought. What is one thing you've learned to cherish as you've grown older? Because every voice makes this house feel a little less quiet. What remains is now your story to tell.